Well, let me welcome you this morning. Both the University of Windsor, ICEPAL, and Educational Leaders Without Borders. I'm going to highlight just a few items for our keynote speaker of our 25 conference. Dr. Rose Cardarelli is an internationally recognized author, educator, healthcare strategist, and humanitarian who brings organizations, people, and resources together to develop sustainable healthcare and education solutions. She has been a soldier, a professor, and a community advocate. She is the Rotary International's representative to UNICEF. She is also the founder and CEO of the Education for All Coalition, a charity partnered with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, providing educational access for displaced refugees' children around the world. Rose serves as a council leader in the U.S.-Japan Council, building connections to strengthen U.S.-Japan relationships, as an NGO member to the Department of Global Communication at the United Nations, and as a social emotional learning representative to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization, UNESCO, in Paris. Rose previously served on the board of directors of KDP, the International Honor Society in Education, and the Global NGO Executive Committee with the Department of Global Communications at the UN. Rose holds a doctorate in education from the College of William and Mary, a master's in health administration, and a master's in education. She is a retired Medical Service Corps officer who commanded the Army's largest training battalion and 1st Wounded Warrior Brigade at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. She is the recipient of numerous awards and decorations for her military service to the United States. Rose has also led global operations in healthcare, disaster relief, training, and education, and has facilitated educational programs for thousands of international dignitaries while serving as professor of human security at the National Defense University. She's a board-certified fellow at the American College of Healthcare Executives and has been recognized by the Vatican for her humanitarian support in the Middle East. Her experiences are deeply rooted in her service as a Medical Service Corps officer in the U.S. Army and as a government professor of human security, and recently appointed an affiliate member for the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter Peace and Conflict Resolution. I've worked with Rose for many years, and I'm very proud to present to ELWB, the University of Windsor, and ICEPAL, Dr. Rose Cardarelli.
Well, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and thank you all for being here, not just in this virtual room, but in this moment, a moment when the world is calling on all educators like never before. While I would have enjoyed meeting all of you in person in Canada, I'm so thrilled to still have this opportunity to engage with you in this important and sometimes controversial topic of education leadership in an uncertain world. We gather today in a time marked by uncertainty, conflict, climate stress, social division, political change, and a rising sense of urgency. But we also gather in a period of extraordinary possibility for education to be not only a sound response to crisis and peace, but a force for transformation. Let me first thank my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Rosemary Papa. Rosemary, our paths seem to cross frequently, and we have connected at various points in our lives. You are an incredible human being, educator, humanitarian, and friend. People like you and your organization, Education Leaders Without Borders, transcends the challenges and complexity of our divided world. Thank you, Rosemary, for all you do, for your example, and how you've helped me in my work in so many ways, and for being my friend. Also, let me express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Stacy Edmondson and the International Council of Professors of Education Leadership for this kind invitation to join you today. And let me share with you that my points and perspectives are my own from my time as a military Medical Service Corps officer who was assigned overseas, as a government civil servant who was professor of human security, and a non-governmental organization, humanitarian, who has worked with many UN entities and has focused on access to education for all children to provide a level playing field in their country so they can thrive and contribute to a peaceful world. So let me begin by reminding you all of a familiar story from mythology. There was once a young woman who was fond of her partner, but she wasn't too keen about the extended family. So when the grumpy family patriarch sent her a gift, Pandora was delighted by an exquisitely wrought vase. It arrived with instructions: look, but don't open. It came from Zeus, maliciously intended, people say, to punish humankind for various transgressions. Zeus knew Pandora would be unable to resist her curiosity, and after all, the gods had given her curiosity in abundance for precisely that reason. And inevitably, she opened the vase. Instantly, myriads of pain escaped into the world before she jammed the lid back on. The traditional story of Pandora's box, or more accurately, vase, due to Renaissance scholars carelessly translating from the Greek, can be seen as a metaphor for our own time. Have we opened that box today? Well, 733 million people face extreme hunger today. An average of 32 children a day have been killed in Gaza since October 2023. Global tensions, particularly in the Western Pacific, threaten our security. The war in Ukraine continues with some 20,000 missing children. Hypersonic weapons and space weaponizations are creating new threats. Cyber attacks on power grids and infrastructure are becoming more frequent. Drones have changed the character of modern conflict. Unregulated AI and media misinformation undermine democratic processes. Extremism fans hatred and conspiracy theories. The existential threat of climate crisis is now irrevocably linked to conflict. And as educators today, we face significant political changes affecting grant funding, research opportunities, school and university attendance, and new political mandates that may compromise our standards or values. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our 21st century reality and a divided world. Now, cynics might say that this is business as usual, or you simply need to buckle up and just adapt, but I'm not a cynic and I don't easily conform. And thankfully, there's an antidote to this depressing litany. And let's thank the god Hesiod for that. Because as Pandora slammed the lid back on her vase, she saved one precious quality for her world. Elpis, the ancient Greeks called it, we would say, the spirit of hope. We must always have hope. Today I stand before you not just as an advocate for education, but as a fellow human being, deeply aware of the world we now find ourselves in, uncertain, divided, and at times seemingly adrift. We are educators at a time when truth is contested, when wars rage, when climate extremes displace communities, and when trust in institutions is strained to the point of fracture. We are seeing our students, our future, carrying an invisible weight of anxiety, fear, injustice, insecurities, and digital overload. They are not only asking, what do I need to know, but will I have a future worth preparing for? And yet you show up. You show up in lecture halls, research labs, at community partnerships, at office hours, at conferences such as this. You show up not because the world makes it easy, but because you believe in something bigger than yourself. Let me say this clearly. In a time of division, education remains one of the most powerful forces of unity and a crucial foundation for hope. In fact, education may be the last universally accepted act of hope. So let us not simply gloss over the challenges, the erosion of civil discourse, the rise of extremism, the spread of disinformation, the politicalization of science, the issues and perhaps inequalities that might define who gets to learn, lead, and belong. But these challenges are not signs of failure, they're signs of relevance. We are players in this arena. Education is not neutral, it has never been. It shapes minds, it forms citizens, it builds futures, and can change the world.
You hear her introduction.
The question before us, then, is not whether we will make a difference, but what kind of difference will we make? As educators, we hold extraordinary power, not just in what we teach, but in how we teach, how we listen, and how we lead by example. We prepare the next generation not to just make a living, but to make meaning of life, to think critically, act ethically, and to contribute in their space in some way. Education invites students to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, to imagine alternatives, and to build bridges across differences and with compassion. And that is what the world needs now more than ever. So where is the hope? Hope is not blind optimism. Hope is the stubborn belief that with enough courage and cooperation, we can shape a better tomorrow. It is with the first generation of students who defies the odds and becomes a voice or leader for his or her community. It is in the research team that crosses disciplines to tackle critical issues and discoveries to improve our lives or this planet. It is in the classroom where a difficult conversation leads not to outrage, but to understanding. It is in you, the mentors, stewards of knowledge, and builders of peace. And hope is in our capacity to reaffirm or reimagine education itself, to make it more achievable, inclusive, perhaps more global, and definitely more human. I know there is recent criticism of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the Pact for the Future, but the goals in the Pact provide an azimuth, a guide to also remind us that education is not just a tool, it's a human right, a public good, and a driver of every form of progress. So let this be our charge. Let us teach not only facts, but the complexity of truth and the necessity of hope. Let us build not only careers, but character and empathy. Let us cultivate not only intellect, but integrity. Let us stress civic responsibility with the same vigor as academic freedom. In a world that often seems to be tearing at the seams, we can be the thread that weaves humanity back together. And we're not alone. We are part of a global community of educators, learners, and stakeholders. And together we can build a future where education is not only a mirror of society, but its most powerful engine of transformation. And when collaborating in hope, we can help heal our divided world. Hope is here today in this meeting space. It is often said that an audience, if you're lucky, will remember one thing from a speech. Well, here it is. Educators provide the hope and transformation that we all need for students to deal with the world's complex problems. Educational leaders must actively share the value of global communications and through that global awareness, enhance student well-being through access and opportunity to inclusive, equitable, and innovative education practices that opens minds, expands knowledge, imbues critical thinking, and builds resilience and strengthens hope through your leadership. And leadership is not just about administration, it's about vision, action, and transformation. So be visionary, align education with global values for access, purpose, and peace. Be anchored in action, lead with empathy, inclusion, and justice to facilitate achievement. Be adaptive and resilient to have strength to transform where needed. As leaders, we must continue to teach critical thinking and ethical decision-making, promote intercultural understanding and tolerance, and to empower youth to become change makers and not just bystanders. Let us be clear. Education is peace building. Education is democracy in motion. And we don't need perfect leaders. We need present, principled, and passionate ones. So I want to challenge you today to think more deeply, first about the education leader's singular power as a global influencer and change maker. Second, by what we mean by global citizenship as it applies to each and every country. And third, about the possible solutions and your personal impact on students in the world. Our efforts must correspond with policies, practice, advocacy, research, and relevant academic programs. And most importantly, our own values to become effective, impactful, and sustainable. And this is something at which you, education leaders, excel. I can sense the dedication in this meeting space, filled with so many talented, passionate leaders and advocates for education. We all should agree that our world is at a key inflection point. Leaders around the world are calling for urgent action, and there are so many challenges, and we know who suffers the most: millions of children and youth. So what are the solutions? While researching my book, Children and the Climate Migration Crisis, I had an epiphany. The missing link between acknowledging and solving a crisis in a comprehensive global framework is guiding policymakers, supported by global and local leadership and governance processes towards those solutions. And I want to tell you more about the transformative global agendas like the United Nations Sustainable Goals and the Pact for the Future, which were adopted at the 2024 UN Summit of the Future in the General Assembly. The Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals that give nation states a direction and purpose for sustainability, are to be achieved by 2030. Concern about being able to achieve them resulted in the Summit for the Future last year and the creation of the Pact for the Future. All 193 member states agreed to the 56 actions identified in the Pact at the UN's General Assembly in 2024. The 5 broad focus areas include sustainable development and financing, science, technology, and innovation, including digital cooperation, youth and future generations, transforming global governance, and international peace and security. In this divided world, the significance of addressing funding, technology, youth, leadership, peace, and security are urgent and more relevant to education more than ever. Education leaders like you are the architects that built this hope and purpose of global transformation. So how do we proceed? First, acknowledge the complexity and the challenges. Begin by recognizing the world as it is: rising inequality, insecurities, continuing conflict, climate challenges, misinformation, growing lack of trust in institutions, students facing stress, trauma, anxiety, and disconnection, education systems struggling with technology changes and resource constraints. As Dr. Paul LeBlanc, president of Southern New Hampshire University, has noted, we are no longer preparing students for a predictable world. We're preparing them for complexity, disruption, and transformation. Second, embrace education as a force for peace and sustainable development. Highlight the role of education in addressing global goals. Understand global citizenship and intercultural connections. Empower students to be innovators and agents of change. Connect curriculum to the issues students are connected to today. Third, champion social emotional learning and well-being. In a time of division, SEL should be an integral consideration in classrooms. Promote resilience, compassion, and conflict resolution, and support educators' mental health as well. Fourth, model the leadership you want to cultivate. Educators shape culture through presence and practice. Lead by listening and through example. Be transparent, humble, and inclusive. Encourage civic participation and ethical reasoning. Fifth, collaborate across borders and sectors. Today's challenges require networks, not silos. Partner with civil society, local communities, international organizations, share innovations, co-create solutions, join conversations like the UN Summit of the Future and other peace and education initiatives. And finally, keep hope alive. Even in times of crisis, education plants the seeds for renewal. Remind educators that their work has an intergenerational impact. Celebrate progress and tell stories of transformation. Ensure access to equitable, inclusive, and equitable education for all. And in this time of strong political engagement, we should also protect education from politics wherever possible. Education systems can sometimes appear to be weaponized and have the potential to promote division, ideology, or exclusion. Education leaders should advocate for themselves and their beliefs with open eyes in terms of curriculum, academic freedom, and balanced perspectives in general. Use technology responsibly also. Misinformation, surveillance, and inequality through technology requires us to promote digital literacy, ethical use of AI, and equitable access to education technology. Support mental health and well-being. Youth mental health can be exacerbated by world instability. It's important to advocate for safe and supportive learning environments and prepare learners for a rapidly changing environment. In addition to traditional learning, there is value in emphasizing adaptability, innovation, creativity, diplomacy, and ethical leadership. As educators in today's climate, I would recommend that we all focus on finding ways to protect academic freedom while meeting the goals of education reforms and policies, developing consensus to meet policy objectives, empowering other entities like state, tribal, religious, and local stakeholders to step up in policy making and advocacy for education. Always be thoughtful about what we say in social media. Engage with the issues because you want to be a collaborator for change and progress and not an impediment to opportunities and possibilities. Participate in productive dialogues with education officials and stakeholders at all levels to ensure academic programs remain accessible and viable for all students. Develop and maintain relationships that enable government officials at all levels to help them understand the needs for education administration and faculty vision and purpose. Strive to adapt accrediting organization standards to address current mandated objectives. If appropriate, adapt your own career aspirations to become more flexible and diversified in other occupational opportunities. Seek consensus in best practices of education systems and current hierarchical objectives. Remain innovative, attuned, and responsive to local, state, and community needs. But as I would have said in the military, have a strategic perspective with an operational and tactical reality to accomplish the mission successfully. Encourage corporate social responsibility by major entities towards education opportunities and resources to fill the gaps. Not one single nation or one education advocate can secure the future alone. But partnerships among stakeholders, engaged leaders, and dedicated will and funding with commitments by philanthropic communities and corporate social responsibility entities can and will assist. A culture of peace and a healthy local and global environment can be achieved through intentional dialogues, sustainable access to education, and respect for each other's human rights, cultures, and differences. So in closing, let me offer you both a challenge and a thought. Don't just talk about your concerns and priorities. Don't just think about the possible solutions. Find the opportunities to make a difference and act. For every one of you engaged in today's discussions, help plot that path to a positive action, not just for today, but for tomorrow, not just for us, but for posterity. And to everyone in the audience, create connections in every conversation you have during this conference and advance the possibilities for research, collaboration, and sharing. You each have a powerful voice and the potential to make change, so embrace this most crucial opportunity for humanity, because there is nothing more powerful than education leaders and the luminous spirit of hope you deliver. You are the transformation agents, the leaders with influence. You can each inspire and be the catalyst for positive change, especially for those who follow you. And speaking of hope, as I return to the story of Pandora, it seems that the story handed down was a misleading revision of the original text. With education, we can understand that Pandora, which means Pan, all, and Dora, which is gifts, was originally the earth goddess. She was the source of all things of our earth, both good and bad. And when she reclosed the vase, it was to retain one spirit, hope, because hope was the greatest of gifts and the one spirit that could defeat all others. And Pandora valued that above all others. If time had passed those insights down to us instead of the more common story of the box of evils, we would all be in a much better place today, even in the role of educators. Remember, you're not just educators, you're the architects of the future. You are the stewards of humanity's most powerful tool, learning. So lead with heart, lead with vision, lead knowing that the world may be uncertain, but your role has never been more certain or more necessary. And finally, I would remind all of you to practice your own self-care as you navigate these complex challenges in education leadership in terms of purpose, service, and commitment. You must sustain your own energy, ensure your focus is sharp, and prevent your own burnout so you can continue another day. So find appropriate steps to nurture your emotional well-being, to strengthen your inner self, to be a positive influence, to spark inspiration, to be courageous, and to be resilient and adaptable to this rapidly changing world. We're all counting on you. Thank you.
You'll come up there then. All right.
Rose, I want to say thank you so very much for those incredible words of wisdom. I took notes, just to be perfectly frank, things that I'm going to use with my own faculty and staff here in the College of Education. I wrote down, the question is not if you will make a difference. We talk about that in our college all the time as leaders and educators. The question is not if you will make a difference, it's what kind of difference you will make. And to your closing point, the story of Pandora's box, so powerful, but to end that story with the critical component of what we really take from that is hope. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your energy, but especially your words of wisdom and your words of hope for who we are and what we do and for the future that we shape in so many ways. So thank you so very much. Also want to take just a moment of gratitude to announce a very special thing that, Rose, if you will stay here with me for just a minute. We are launching, this is a broad announcement. It's the first time that the membership has heard this as well, but we are honored and delighted to start a new award in ICPEL. And that award is in honor of Dr. Rosemary Papa. Yes, and so we as a board made this decision last year and decided we would launch this inaugural award at this conference, thinking we would be in Canada in an international site and in conjunction with our partners with ELWB. But we created the Rosemary Papa International Leadership Award to honor scholars in our discipline and in our community who make an impact at the international level and who focus on leadership in that capacity and who do very much, as you said, create and serve as architects of the future. And for those that can see, Rick and Rosemary are here and have the award there. And Rose, it is my absolute honor to present you with our very first inaugural Dr. Rosemary Papa International Leadership Award.
Well, I knew Rosemary and I were connected, but now we'll be connected just forever in education. So thank you very much. It's quite an honor. Rosemary has always been a mentor and just a powerful figure in my life. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I cannot think of anybody that would be a more fitting and deserving and appropriate representative of what this award means, and a way to honor Rosemary through the words and through the things that you present to our organization and to our world and to our community. So congratulations, Rose and Rosemary. Thank you for allowing us to honor your legacy in this important way as well.
I'm so touched and so honored. Thank you so much. I am just so stunned. I knew there was something going on between you and Rick. I wasn't sure what. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ICPEL. Thank you so much for all you've done for me in my life and all the living legends that are there. Thank you so much. And Rose, stunning. Present. Thank you.
Well, this is just the beginning because we have more to do, Rosemary. We've talked about that. So it's time for us to start writing.
Yes, it is. We've got the book on the table. Thank you, Stacy, for this wonderful honor.
Absolutely. The legacy continues with work like this. So, Rosemary, thank you for who you are and what you've done. And Rose, thank you for being such an amazing and deserving recipient of this inaugural award.
I'm honored.
So,
thank you.
I also want to take the liberty, and Rick, thank you for being present to show that. And I do want to say thank you to the Living Legends who, because this is a new award, they were the instruments by which we created the award, endowed the award, and selected our first recipient. So Rose, I'll add that to the mix as well, that not only are you our first recipient, but you were selected by our esteemed group of living legends. And so I think that also speaks for itself to the power and prestige of this honor. So I do also want to say thank you again on behalf of the entire organization. And I want to take just a little bit of liberty now, since we do have, this is would have been our keynote session, or is our keynote session. And we would all be, for one of the very few times, in the same space at the same time. And so I'm going to make a few other announcements on behalf of the organization. None as exciting as establishing the Rosemary Papa International Leadership Award, but we'll try to come close. So I do want to take this time to announce our new board members. We conducted our election, and it closed last night at midnight, and in a very tight race. And I want to say thank you to all of those who were candidates for our board. We had just an amazing slate of very qualified candidates that makes me happy and excited and proud of what happens next in this organization. And in a very tight race, our 3 new board members who will start at the conclusion of this conference are Dr. Nahid Abdelrahman from the University of Southern Mississippi, Dr. Eileen Johnson from Oakland University, and Dr. Catherine Washington from Lamar University. So if you will virtually help me congratulate our 3 new board members, I'm super excited to have them start. And I do want to say thank you to the other candidates. And trust me, we have plenty of opportunities to make sure that you are engaged in leadership opportunities with the organization as well. Also want to take just a moment and recognize our outgoing board members whose terms will be completed at the end of this conference. They have done yeoman's work in helping move the organization forward, and I want to formally thank them for their service to ICPEL and to this organization and to our community of education leaders. So if you will help me, and they will receive an acknowledgement of their service from the organization as well. And so thank you to Dr. Dan Edens, who not only has been a board member, but also was president and stepped in for an extra year as past president of the organization. Thank you to Dr. Marjorie Ceballos, and thank you to Dr. Larry Walker, our outstanding outgoing board members for ICPEL. And then finally, a very important acknowledgement. This is when we would normally pass the gavel for the organization and move from one president to the next. And so I absolutely want to say thank you to our outgoing president. He still has the rest of today to get through, but Dr. Chris Benedetti from Texas A&M Corpus Christi has just been an outstanding president for this year. He has figuratively held my hand through a lot of learning and just been a calm and innovative and forward-thinking leader for this organization. And so we will officially, Chris, present you with an honorary gavel. You can, knock people over the head with it when you need to. I don't know exactly what the symbolism behind an honorary gavel is historically, but we have one with your name on it. And just from the bottom of my heart, tremendous gratitude for your leadership this year with ICPEL. And with that, the actual passing of the gavel, I am super excited to welcome what I believe is our very first ever international president of this organization, but to welcome and pass the gavel figuratively to our incoming president, Dr. Anna Salti from Greece. And so excited to move from Chris's leadership to Anna's leadership and to really break new ground in our organization by having our first ever international president. So with that, I want to say thank you again to Rose for such wonderful and inspiring words. Thank you to our outgoing board members and to Chris, and a warm welcome to our new incoming board members and to Anna's leadership. And look forward to seeing everybody in a few more minutes at our next breakout session. So Rose, thank you again from the bottom of our hearts.